Hey guys, it's Justin.
And it's Carl. Welcome to Film School.
Got me moving, I want you to know.
So, Carl, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we're going to be talking about surrealism, and specifically, we are going to be watching and reacting to Louis Buñuel's 1929 classic Un Chien Andalou.
Yes, classic. I believe we both watched this film in film school. I had never seen it before film school, to be honest.
It's actually been a long time, probably since film school, since I've seen it.
There's a lot going on in that movie, so I'm excited to unpack it, talk about it, and talk about the greater context of surrealist film. What does it mean? Who are the major figures in it? Why it's important to cinema in general. So stay tuned, guys. We're going to watch the film in a minute, but I think it's important first to maybe at least give a broad definition of surrealism. Even surrealism with outside of cinema, right? Like, we want to start by defining what surrealism is. And I believe surrealism started as a movement in painting. Am I right?
I believe so. Of the framed surrealist artists, the most notable is Salvador Dali, who actually worked with Buñuel on the film we're about to see today and others.
All right, so according to Wikipedia, the term surrealism was coined in 1917 by Guillaume Apollinaire. I believe that's how you say his name. But it was not officially established till 1924 when French poet and critic André Breton published the Surrealist Manifesto in Paris. So it's a French, has French origins. The most important center of the movement was Paris. From the 20s onward, the movement spread around the globe, impacting visual arts, literature, film, and music of many countries and languages, as well as a political thought and practice, philosophy, and social theory. So, I mean, we're talking about a lot of different arenas which were influenced by surrealism. I'm curious about this Surrealist Manifesto. Have you heard of this, Carl?
I can't say. I mean, maybe at one point I did, but it's not coming back to me, to be honest. So it'd be interesting to unpack that for sure.
So I'm going to read the definition of surrealism according to the manifesto by Breton. The document defines surrealism as follows. Quote, psychic automatism in its pure state, by which one proposes to express verbally, by means of the written word or in any other matter, the actual functioning of thought, dictated by thought in the absence of any control exercised by reason, exempt from any aesthetic or moral concern. So it's really a way of exploring how we think, it seems.
Well, we could talk about, like, if we're starting with surrealism, the art movement and surrealist figures of that time, late 19th, early 20th century. We have folks like Breton, Miro, Magritte, Max Ernst, and one could argue Frida Kahlo.
I want to read a quote from Breton, which I think, to me, like, really speaks to kind of the heart of surrealist cinema in particular, and which will relate to the film we're about to watch and the films that we are both really big fans of. So he said the following, quote, to resolve the previously contradictory conditions of dream and reality into an absolute reality, a super reality, or surreality. So that's where we get the word surrealism. It's almost like a super realism, because it's almost like thought in its purest form, which I think is what they were after.
It's very much dreamscape, stream of consciousness, sort of like subjective experience in the mind expressed through a sort of creative medium, painting, art. And that may sound vague and sort of abstract, but I think that's kind of the road he was going down with that quote.
Yeah, I agree. So we have surrealism in literature. There's poetry and other forms of literature. There's surrealism in painting. There the works of Dali, like you said, Magritte. And then, of course, eventually we have surrealism in film. And there's even surrealism in music, I should mention before we get to film. Composers like Eric Satie were very interested in kind of the dream-like state and were drawn to the surrealist movement for that reason. So let's talk about surrealist cinema in particular. I'm going to read from Wikipedia because it gives us a good jumping off point. So they define surrealist cinema as a modernist approach to film theory, criticism, and production with origins in Paris in the 1920s. The movement used shocking, irrational, or absurd imagery and Freudian dream symbolism to challenge the traditional function of art to represent reality. I mean, I think that's a really good definition. Would you agree?
Yeah, totally. And I think a lot of this, a lot of the sort of early 20th century art, and whether it's fine art or, cinema, sort of Freud was a big influence in his writings, but other sort of philosophers, that sort of predate him, philosophers, psychologists, sociologists, and stuff like that. So Carl Jung is another one, right? So,
he was a protege of Freud.
Right, exactly. But I think that's that definition, I think it's well stated. Thank you, Wikipedia.
Thank you, Wikipedia. And I wonder, what was it about that era, that time, that drew people to really become introspective and want to explore their dreamscapes, right? Like, I guess we were at the end of the most horrific war we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's true. 100%. I think even going back further, the science of the mind, science of dreams goes back maybe, I think it predates the 19th century, 18th century, whatever. Like the 19th century, obviously we had folks like, Charles Darwin and Origin of Species and then more science of the mind and sort of the constant battle between sort of naturalism, science, and religion, and sort of like you're perhaps seeing the hairline cracks and sort of the old way, quote unquote, of thinking. I guess this is what's been going on for centuries, from, as illustrated by the different philosophical approaches and philosophers, going back to antiquity. So the folks, your social scientists and philosophers and sociologists of the 19th century going into the 20th century, I think we have this age of enlightenment, this sort of shedding of the old sort of way of looking at the world more as we get to know how the human body works. For years, art and science and religion and everything were very, very intertwined. If you go back to antiquity, and then like as the centuries go on, they, for a variety of reasons, social, political, scientific, they've become split apart more and more. So I wonder, and I know I'm just kind of like riffing here, but if like one sort of subtextual, if that's a word, subliminal way of looking at surrealism is like a way of bringing back what was broken apart, like art, science, religion, everything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I don't know if that lands, but like, I don't know, maybe I'm just like blah, like blah, blah, blah.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
In other words, a way to remember the way art and everything was holistically integrated, as opposed to dismembering those elements.
Yeah, everything was more holistic. You go back to like antiquity, it's like art, religion, science. It was all like together,
Well, and I feel like that's a process that continues to evolve in different ways. You have the fragmentation of media to an extreme degree at, in the modern age, or currently in the age of YouTube. All right, there you have it. The Justin and Carl theory of fragmentation of media.
Are we right? Are we not right?
Comment below.
Comment below.
I say we get into it, man. Let's watch this thing. Let's do our live reaction vid. So I'm gonna pull it up, Or let's put the earbuds in and let's do it. This music, it's already amazing. Such a very 1920s font.
Yeah, love it. Well,
Salvador Dali.
Salvador Dali. Yeah. Nice.
I like how the cameraman has only one name.
Right.
Duverger.
Duverger.
It's like Prince.
Are these subtitles?
They're not in English.
They're not in English, clearly.
I don't know the language.
I think it's in French.
Oof.
I believe.
So this.
I mean, I think the original is like.
FYI, this is Buñuel himself playing this
Yes.
role on camera. I think this is the only scene you'll see Buñuel himself
Of him,
in the film.
yeah.
Very young Louis Buñuel. I believe he was in his
Yeah.
early to mid 20s. Maybe.
Yeah, I think wasn't he born like early 1900s or something? Yeah, here we go.
And
Classic.
this is
Yeah.
wow, one of the most classic images in the history of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
That's such a shocking image.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine folks at the time, obviously, seeing that
Yes.
for the first time? You know.
And I feel like he came out with a bang, right? Like
Yeah.
this
of course.
film from
This
the
was his first one, right? Is this his first film?
Yes, and from the first minute of his first film, he comes out to tell you, I'm going to slice your eyeballs with this film.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
you're about to see something you've never seen before.
Yeah.
I remember hearing in film school that they used a goat. for
Oh
that
yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
So
They got
Sucks
away
for
with
that
that
goat.
crap back then. They got away. It's like, you know what? It's like, we're gonna, kill a goat.
and that's a famous work of art in that book. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll have to look that
Who's
up.
the artist? Yeah. Just thinking that. Yeah.
Now, what's going on with this guy's outfit? Like, what does this
He's-
costume represent? Kind of looks like a schoolgirl
It also say look or like a maid.
or a maid.
Maybe.
And she seems like just
Yeah, it looks
Repulsed.
very.
of course now she's worried.
Yeah. He
A maid or a nun?
slammed his head.
So he's playing with gender.
Yep.
What's in
The
the
mystery box. The mystery box. Yep.
What is in the box? It's like a it's a tie.
Yeah.
It's his masculinity was trapped in that little box. I mean, see, that's the
Jeez.
wonderful thing about surrealism. You can interpret all kinds of things.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
She's dreaming.
Another incredibly classic image.
Yeah.
And that's a recurring theme for Dali, I believe, is ants and like ants coming out of flesh.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I believe this is Wagner playing.
It is Wagner, isn't it?
Yeah. Beautiful piece of music. From a not so beautiful person.
I was going to say Nazi sympathizer. But he made beautiful music.
Yeah. And now we go from the hand with the ants to the hand on the road.
Yeah.
And the connections between scenes seem to be
Yeah,
very dreamlike.
Absolutely.
I like how androgynous this woman is that's poking the hand. I don't know if that was just the style of the time or if this is a choice.
Yeah.
Let me give you a hand with that.
Mm-hmm. Let's put this back in the box.
The same box. My box. All right, nothing to see here.
Nothing
Move
to see
it,
here.
people.
Those were the ants.
Those are the ants.
Those are the ants. So he's really staring at the androgynous woman holding the box.
She's like somewhere in between him and her.
Mm-hmm.
She's both of them. And he's had it with both of them. So he's hoping she's going to get hit by a car. Look at this.
Yeah.
Wow. You talk about a dangerous stunt back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh no. Continuity. She had the box and then she didn't have the box. Hey man, it's surrealism.
Yeah.
So what's going on here?
So now that she's gone.
What's that?
I said, no, now that she's gone, yeah. That
It's
was
also
like his...
The violence has like spawned the desire.
Yeah,
it's like the relationship between
the
violence and desire.
Exactly.
And look at her. I mean, she's prey. This is like predator and prey. It's a very Freudian like view of
Very.
courtship.
This is before the Hays Code.
Hey man, that's not consent, bro.
It's not consent.
I mean, so guys haven't changed a whole lot apparently.
No.
You know, weirdly.
So the woman who got killed, the woman that got run down by the car, the androgynous woman with the box.
Yes.
Who do you think she represented?
Well, I guess my thought was that she represents the both of them,
Yeah.
like a fusion of the both of them. I mean,
But if she represents a fusion of the both of them, then why, once she's run over, he becomes very sexually predatorial towards his other half? Why is it that instance? Is it reminding that they is the violence of seeing the violence remind him of his inner nature.
Maybe. Or here's another one. What if the lady outside was his feminine side?
Yeah.
That
I was thinking that too, actually. Yeah.
That's what you're thinking? Yeah, right? Because
I was also thinking that too. I was just wondering, yeah.
Yeah, we're seeing him dressed as a woman, basically.
Right.
Then his girlfriend takes those clothes off, and then we see this woman out there with the same box. And the second she gets killed, now he's a real man. Oh, and I always love this imagery, right? Like, he's trying to get to the woman, and he's got to bear this tremendous burden.
All this weight.
It's the guilt.
Like that. Is that like the church, basically? Do they represent the church at the time?
Exactly. So
and then
I always interpreted that as his Catholic guilt about his desire.
Catholic guilt. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's the thing keeping him from being basically a monster.
The burden, the Catholic guilt.
Yeah.
Do you think those represent like Ten Commandments or whatever?
Ten Commandments, maybe. I mean, it kind of looks like the Mosian. That's not a word.
So.
Good for her.
She's
Is that the hand of
claiming her agency, essentially, and she's leaving? Yeah. Is this the... Yeah, and this is...
Oh, there he is again. Sissy Boy is back. So now she's thinking, well, maybe Sissy Boy wasn't all that bad. At least he wasn't trying to have his way with me.
Yeah. Try to rape me, basically.
I was trying to say it gently. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, YouTube.
It looks like the subtitle. I think the subtitles are in Portuguese. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this. I always love that. So the doorbell, someone hits a doorbell and we see a cocktail shaker. Like, that's such a powerful, like, sound and vision connection to me. Get out of bed, sissy boy. Who's that? Is that his father?
It's like his father always berated him, never really...
Or is it his...
Is he a victim of abuse, a victim of an overbearing dad, and...
Right.
Now he becomes a misogynist jerk.
Wow, this really is all about gender.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a paternal figure for sure.
Yeah. It's like overbearing dad, and he, dad was a jerk to him. Dad beat him, and that's how he became who he became. But ultimately, you have to take responsibility for your actions. So
Sure.
you can't blame. There's only so long you can blame the sins of your father.
And now, of course, we've revealed that man to be also him.
Right. He is becoming his father.
Exactly.
He's becoming the man he hated.
Not necessarily, right?
Or he's making the decision whether or not to. Excuse me.
Look at that.
He's like so disappointed.
So much judgment.
Yeah.
Very strong emotions in this film. Everything is very heightened.
Absolutely.
I mean, these actors are phenomenal. Like, I feel like they fully understood. Oh, I love this. Watch this.
Thematically,
Look at
yes.
that. The books
Yep.
turn into guns. Unbelievable. Knowledge turns to violence.
Mm-hmm.
That's so genius. Like the two, like, talk about the two most, like, it's such a juxtaposition. Like,
Knowledge is violence, or can be violence. Can be used as violence.
knowledge is the ultimate weapon.
Knowledge is the ultimate weapon.
Amazing. It's so beautifully photographed. Such an interesting change of scenery to be in nature all of a sudden. Like it
Yeah.
goes from
Kind of going back to, I don't know, back to the earth, dust to dust, maybe.
yeah. Oh, what a great shot.
Yeah.
Very mysterious. Like, who are these men?
Why are they
Where are
there? Where are, yeah.
But it went from a very frenetic pace, a lot of things happening, to this very serene, almost like
So like it's like the village taking their fallen son home.
and she's back. Another insect, a moth. So much symbolism surrounding
Yeah.
moths,
Yeah.
and then this moth in particular, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Film scholars will recognize this as the same moth used in Silence of the Lambs.
Yep.
I forget the name of it. We'll have to.
Yeah, what is that? She can't...
So did the moth become him? I
Yeah.
love this. Of course, The Matrix copied this when Keanu's being interrogated. His mouth disappears. And that's amazing. His mouth is her armpit. I love that. Notice the change in mood too. It went from like really kind of like tense to sad. Now it's humorous, and I love that.
Yes.
The new young lover.
Yeah, yeah,
She's moved on, man.
yeah.
He doesn't have time.
She found the next one.
I feel like he's not that into her.
Yeah. And what do you think this says about female agency? Like,
Oh, look, she won him over.
yeah.
Female agency. I mean, she seems to be in the driver's seat
Yeah.
here,
Yeah, I would agree.
which I think. I mean, look.
You think like she
isn't
had
that
an
what
arc,
women
like,
are in the world. I mean,
yeah,
of course, I'm not
Yes.
denying the existence of the patriarchy, but like, You know, women get their way when they want to, too. And I feel like that's what this is about. Oh, the box.
Oh, and the broken box.
The final farewell. It's like, what is this crap?
These old dirty rags,
Yeah.
these things that I don't need anymore, or that
this is a
I'll never
different guy,
use.
right?
It's a different guy though, but like I don't need.
So he's like, I'm not about this.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my favorite. In the spring. At least that's what I remember the English translation is. And this is just pure art. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't even need storytelling when the art is so evocative. Amazing. Well, that is Un Chien Andalou. We would love to hear what you guys think if you watch along with us. Well, of course they did. What am I saying? But yeah, I mean, wow.
It's a pretty powerful film. I mean, 1929. I mean, I believe it was the first film. Correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but it was the first film that Salvador Dali was involved in. Correct, or am I wrong in that assessment?
I'm not sure about Dali. It is
Buñuel's
first film.
I know that.
So, in 1929, Buñuel's first film. So, Buñuel was 29, either 28 or 29 years old when he made this film. So, a young auteur for sure. Let's talk about the initial reception of this film. I guess the first screening of this film took place in Paris. And get this, among the attendees of the first screening of this film were Pablo Picasso, Jean Cocteau, and the entirety of Andre Breton's Surrealist group. So I mean,
Right.
It's the who's who of art and culture in Paris.
Paris in the 20s, basically.
I mean, talk about an incredible group of people sitting down to watch this film. I mean, you better be sure you made an amazing film if you're going to show it to these people. And they did. So apparently, the audience's positive reception of the film amazed Buñuel, who was relieved that no violence ensued. Dali, on the contrary, was reportedly disappointed, feeling the audience reactions made the evening less exciting.
Amazing.
That's amazing. So he wanted to piss people off. That's amazing.
Yeah.
He was out to just fully troll the art world, and they loved it, of course. If you had to sum this film up like in one word or one sentence, like what would you say?
Wrestling with the male id, I mean, like surrealism and like Buñuel, I mean, it's very dreamscape. I mean, it's hard to know whether you're in like a dream or if you're in reality, but it kind of just doesn't matter really, because that's not the point. Is not whether if you're in reality or if you're in your dream. The point is like thematic, so that sort of stream of consciousness, sort of storytelling.
I agree, but I do think that in order for something to qualify as a surrealist film, it can't just be like a tone poem or a pure art film of just imagery. Say like perhaps.
Well, no, there's a story. There's a story here. Yeah.
Yeah, like there are definite discernible scenes with arcs and characters that react to things in ways we would expect, but then it's just enough of a sense of reality to draw you in and then subvert your expectations, which I guess is the whole point of surrealism, is to, it's like Breton said, to create that super reality. And I think you're right on. I think your quote of wrestling with the male id is so on point for this. This is all about masculinity. This is all about gender. And it's interesting. I feel like those themes are just as relevant now as they ever were.
100%. Maybe even more so now.
Yeah. And I feel like the way he plays with them, subverts them, deconstructs them is fascinating. I think it's subversive and fun. And I think it's important for art to do that, right? Like, we take it, gender is one of those things we've taken for granted for years. And look at him, 1929, he's already like poking holes in it, already like, being playful with it. Here we are almost 100 years later, and
crazy
wrestling with those issues. Well, let's take a moment to talk about modern, like what this led to, right? Like, so this,
Sure.
I think we can agree was kind of like the Magna Carta of surrealist films.
Dare I say the creative bedrock by which surrealist films would be built upon?
I think so. I mean, that not to say there weren't surrealist films before this, because I want to be clear. Like, there was I believe the first one that people recognize is a 1924 film called Entr'acte by René Clair. I saw that one in film school too. I mean, it's an absolutely beautiful film. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out, Carl.
I don't think I have seen that
dude,
one.
it's amazing.
Actually,
it's amazing. It has a ballerina in it. It's more of a dreamlike tone poem than this. And then there's also a very famous surrealist film by Man Ray from the year before, from 1928. But I think this was really solidified surrealist cinema as a genre, and really kind of like created a lot of the rules, or I guess the playbook by which surrealist cinema operates, which is a lot of like inappropriate reactions, things turning into other things, heavy symbolism, often rooted in psychology.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Would you equate this film's impact on surrealist cinema to, maybe I'm getting way too ahead of myself, but maybe, you know how Griffith's Birth of a Nation is essentially like the first real modern feature, and he basically established essentially modern film editing and
Unfortunately,
I mean, unfortunately, well, of course, I mean, Birth of a Nation's a horrible story, and I'm wondering if you think that, like, as with respect to surrealist cinema, that this has that same sort of like carries that same weight, even if it's like in a genre, like how to approach certain things, or is it, surrealism is a bigger tent where, whether it's Buñuel or whether it's David Lynch or whoever, like people approach differently? Or do you think that he kind of really sort of established the template by which other famous surrealist filmmakers built upon?
Well, it's a good question, because I guess you could ask, does surrealism have a template?
Correct. Well, I mean, I guess that's the first question you should ask.
But I would argue, I would be in the camp. I know different film scholars disagree about this. I would be in the camp that would argue that yes, there is a template, because all the things that we traditionally think of surrealist cinema kind of follow similar themes and patterns. And again, it's all, somehow goes back to Freud and Freudian symbolism, and often has a lot of like religious imagery and implications too. It's all about kind of like unpacking the 20 to 21st century psyche in a way, I would argue. So absolutely. And so having agreed with that, then I would say that this movie was the original playbook, and a lot of credit goes to them, because none of these ideas, none of these techniques really existed in this form until they came along and did the work, and so brazenly like made this film. And so we sit on the shoulders of these giants.
100%.
As new generations of filmmakers emerged, another notable filmmaker that we should mention is Alejandro Jodorowsky, Chilean writer and director, best known for El Topo and Holy Mountain. Interesting. He was born the year that this movie came out.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Holy Mountain's a masterpiece. I recommend that if anyone wants to see a really, really bizarre, surreal film. feature length. And then, of course, that takes us to David Lynch, our personal hero, who shocked the world with a film called Eraserhead, 1977, black and white surrealist masterpiece, and went on to make films like Blue Velvet, Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and, of course, the television series Twin Peaks, which is our all-time favorite.
Yeah.
I feel like surrealism kind of like washed over cinema and culture, and even though you wouldn't point at specific directors as surrealist filmmakers, I feel like those ideas were infused into just a whole broad array of filmmakers and films. So yeah, maybe throw out your favorite surrealist films for people.
Yeah, so my favorite surrealist film, leaving aside what we just saw today, obviously. You mentioned before, we're big Lynch fans of his feature films. I think I would start with Blue Velvet as far as my favorite, but it's hard. There's a lot of good ones out there. And Eraserhead and Lost Highway are good if I'm looking at specifically Lynch. You mentioned Jodorowsky earlier, or rather I mentioned, brilliant, weird.
Yes.
And it's like you don't even need to be on any kind of substance to watch that movie. You'll be like, what?
That movie is the substance. Yeah.
That movie is the drug.
Great. So that is your homework, folks. We've got Eraserhead, Blue Velvet from David Lynch. You've got Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain. And I'm going to throw out one more. If you liked Un Chien Andalou, Dali and Buñuel did a second film together that is not as well known, and it's not as easy to find, but I believe if you dig online, you can find it. And it's called L'Âge d'Or, which means the Golden Age. And that movie is absolutely nuts. So find it, watch it. If you like this one, check that one out. I think you'll love that one as well. And we'll see you next time on Film School.
See you next time, guys.